With the polar bears so threatened in the wild, action must be taken to help save them, and it starts with each one of us making various changes in our lives. The polar bears are officially listed on the threatened species list, and to keep them from becoming endangered, the public needs to be aware of various changes that they can make in their everyday lives that can help save the polar bear population. It is distressing to know that because of individuals' different actions, the polar bears are extremely threatened in their habitat. With awareness and changes in people's lifestyles, hopefully the polar bears will be able to maintain their life in the wild. Change starts with each one of us, and to keep the polar bears off the endangered species list, awareness and action must be taken. There are a few important topics that we will cover today that will help you better understand and hopefully want to get involved in saving the polar bears. Changing various aspects of our lives is one way that can slow global warming and help the polar bears maintain their habitat. Second, we will talk about helping to raise awareness and becoming active about this issue and bring understanding to people all over the country and help them get involved as well. And lastly, we will talk about ways to donate money or other resources directly to various organizations that can help get you involved as well. First, we will talk about a few key aspects that people can change in their lives to help save the polar bear's habitat. Since people's activities are the main reason that the polar bear's habitat is so threatened, it would only make sense that changes to our everyday lives could help restore their natural habitat. Alexander Witz from Science News states that cutting greenhouse gas emissions enough over the next few decades may help stabilize the shrinking Arctic sea ice enough to provide a sustainable habitat for polar bears. As we learned from the last speech, driving cars and burning coal are two aspects that cause high levels of greenhouse gas emissions. As an alternative to driving normal gas-guzzling cars, Lawrence O'Civilian states that consumers using hybrid cars are becoming a growing force in the attempt to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. This is a pie chart showing that the greenhouse gas emissions that are affected by driving, and it shows that 34% of gas emissions come from passenger cars, for example, is what we drive, and the next biggest is light-duty trucks. Levels of coal use are extremely high across the country, and Ken Berlin and Robert Sussman from the Center for American Progress state that policymakers and scientists now recognize that the current growth of greenhouse gas emissions must be reversed and that emissions must be reduced substantially in order to combat the risk of climate change. Although progression may be slow, overall, the more people reduce the risk of greenhouse gas emissions, the less the sea ice will melt and the more habitat the polar bears will have left. My main focus of this speech is to help save the polar bears, but not only are global warming caused by our actions hurting the polar bears, but also many other species as well. Entire ecosystems depend on the sea ice for survival, and although polar bears are the only species that live directly on the sea ice, many other animals depend on it for their habitat. Various seal populations and walrus populations depend on the cold Arctic environment for their survival. Global warming needs to be reversed so that more animal populations do not lose their habitat. Camille Parmesan from Science Daily states that global warming has caused many extinctions in the most sensitive habitats, and more extinctions are expected to occur over the next 50 to 100 years. Now that we know more about how we can reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, we will now focus on ways to get involved to help bring awareness to this issue. There are many different productive ways to get involved in bringing awareness to the issue of global warming, and one of the most important is getting involved with the World Wildlife Foundation. Decision and policymakers around the world really respect the World Wildlife Foundation, and they take their issues very seriously, but it takes large amounts of people to get their points across. One thing the WWF really advocates is adopting an endangered animal. This can really help bring awareness because it makes an individual feel like they are themselves helping an entire species. Also, you can adopt any animal, not only a polar bear, but any endangered species that is listed by the WWF. Fundraising events for the WWF are another great way to get involved by raising money and getting others involved as well. A lot of times, people aren't aware of the problems that the polar bears are facing, and by hosting or attending a fundraising event, it brings awareness to this important subject. If you are not the type of person to host a large fundraising event, then the World Wildlife Foundation has events in cities all over the country that you can get involved with by attending or inviting others to attend with you as well. We have now learned a lot about how we can decrease greenhouse gas emissions ourselves and by ways we can get involved with fundraising events and different organizations. And now we will focus on ways to donate money and other resources to different organizations to help save endangered species. Many people do not have the time personally to spend getting involved with the World Wildlife Foundation, but they can donate any sum of money or other resource to the WWF. An individual can donate as little as $3 a month, which goes directly to helping continue research and helping sustain habitats for endangered animals. Another option for you is to donate a lump sum of money, which goes directly to helping keep the habitats healthy. There are many important things that people can do without even having to get up from their desk. Many different online organizations are committed to saving the polar bear population and have set up foundations where people can get involved. Brian Merchant from Planet Green states that an online organization called the Wildlife Adoption Center allows you to adopt a polar bear or a polar bear family for as little as $20 a month. By adopting a polar bear family, it makes you feel like you're really getting involved to help save the entire species. Other ways of saving polar bears without donating your money can really help as well. Throughout this speech, we have learned a lot of information about saving polar bears and also getting involved with the World Wildlife Foundation. In conclusion, we now know that the polar bears are in danger of becoming an endangered species, and we can help stop that by making small changes in our lives. The 3 topics we discussed today are all important and hopefully helped you better understand and want to get involved in saving the polar bears. First, we talked about specific changes we can make in our everyday lives. Then we talked about various organizations we can get involved with. And lastly, we talked about ways you can donate money or other resources to help save endangered species around the world. This cause is very important to keep the polar bears off the endangered species list, and only small changes are needed by the public to help combat the effects of global warming. Many people around the world are aware of the effects of global warming, but they are not aware of the problems that it is having on different species around the world. Getting involved and becoming aware is the first step to saving the polar bear population. Hopefully, decreasing greenhouse gas emissions enough over the next few decades will sustain the sea ice and allow the polar bears to maintain their habitats in the wild.